So today we have a very special live, and I've hosted this because a lot of you have been asking me questions about speech delay, how to encourage our kids to speak, how can we encourage them to speak quicker, how can we understand whether it's a speech delay or a speech defect. And today I have with me Krishnapriya. She's a speech audiologist, she's a speech pathologist, and she's been working in this field for more than 10 years. And she's helped several kids with speech delays. And I'm really excited to learn from her. And hopefully, if you have any issues, all those issues will be resolved after this live issues related to speech and speech delays. So I'm just going to see where Krishnapriya is, and then I'm going to invite her. Hi Krishnapriya, how are you?
Hi Riddhi, how are you? Finally we met.
Yes, finally. I'm so sorry because I've been bouncing between Gurgaon and Alwar, and then COVID happened. But I'm so happy that we are finally doing this. And I'm very excited for this live because a lot of parents in my community have been actually asking me this question about speech and speech delay in kids still not talking, kids not talking clearly. So I have a list of questions for you, and we'll also take questions from the audience. So let's start. So
Am I audible?
Yes, you're absolutely audible, and your video is also very clear. Also, Krishnapriya, before we start, if you could just tell us a little about the nature of your work, what is it exactly that you do, and then probably we can get to the questions.
Okay. So I am basically an audiologist and a speech language pathologist. It is a dual degree. I mean, we handle both ear and hearing disorders, treat patients with ear and ear disorders, starting from pediatric to geriatric population. That is basically, we test the threshold of the patient and find if the pathology is, which part of the ear, and treat them. If it is surgical, we refer to the ENT. And if it is, have to be fitted with a hearing aid and all that, we take over on surgical. Then and speech therapy is again the population is from pediatric to geriatric. We have speech, we cover speech and language issues, fluency disorders, dysphagia and all that. So anything related to speech and language.
Right, yeah, I think that is easier to understand because before that all the terms were so complicated. But yes, I understand what you do. So let's start. So the first question that I have for you is that, like kids, sometimes some kids speak soon, some kids take a lot of time to speak. So is there like a standard threshold that, a child should meet so that a parent understands whether it's a delay or it's a defect, or whether the parent really needs to visit an expert, or is it okay to just wait?
Correct. So generally, parents should not compare their children with other kids. Rather, they have to compare with the language milestones. So I'll give you a quick tip, like how to actually go to see for risk factors and when you should be alerted that the child is having a defect. So by 1 year, by around the child's first birthday, the child should be able to utter one word, one meaningful or non-meaningful word, something, one word they should utter, at least one word. Some kids they start speaking from 10 months, but don't compare all that. The reference is, the child should speak by around one
word
12 months.
Right.
Yeah, on 12 months. And by 2 years of age, keep this 2 in mind. So they should be at least able to, combine 2 words. That is like ama give, ama no, ama go. All this, the 2-word combination. This is the least they have to do. And by 3 years, they have to string the words together, and they. Can you?
Yeah, now I can. I lost you in between, but now you're back.
Okay, so where did I get
and by 3 years?
Yeah, they should be able to string the words and make statements and form sentences and speak. Actually, by 3 years, they should be able to narrate stories and narrate incidences. I went, Mama, I saw this, I saw an airplane, my friend got hurt, and all this. They should be able to narrate by 3 years. But the basic is they should be able to at least combine 3 to 4 words and form a statement or a sentence.
Right, but then like there are a lot of parents who have this concern that kids are not doing it because sometimes kids don't do what you're saying, so then
We
what will
have to
the parents do?
you can wait up to 18 months. Wait up to 18 months for the first word. If they had not uttered their first word, even by 18 or maximum 24 months, it's definitely a cause of concern. So they have to get evaluated. What we actually do in evaluation is we rule out the other associated problems. If they could probably have any associated problems, we will rule out any sensory issues like hearing and vision. Then we would look out for causes if the mother had any problems during pregnancy, while birth, while the child was born, or the child had any jaundice or had a delayed birth cry or all that. We would dig into all that, and then we would see if the child was kept in the incubator for a longer period and for what reasons. And we would look out for signs and symptoms of any other associated problems like autism or cognitive issues and all that. If nothing is there, then we would advise the mother or give them tips, stimulate the child. It would basically be lack of speech stimulation and overexposure to screen. This could be the main reason.
Okay,
So, when
but
the child
sometimes this also happens that parents say that my child is understanding, so they're sure that the child is listening. The child is understanding. The child is also trying to explain what he wants, but they use sign language, and they are not really talking to explain what they want. They let's say if they want you to go a certain way, they will just show a finger like go there or go there or let's go straight. And they'll not use words, but they'll use symbols or gestures or action to explain what they really want. So the parents are sure that there's no problem with the hearing because they're following what they're asked to do, but they're not speaking. So in that case, what should the parent do?
So we have to consider the age here. If the child is only 1.5 or 1.6, around 2 years, it is generally part of their development, because they might not know all the words to communicate. So they might use the gestures and all that to communicate. But if they are using that modality to communicate after a particular age, then we should probe into it. Why they're using it. And for parents is we have to create situation for the child to speak. Basically, what parents do is feed them on time, give them water even when the child does not ask for water and all that. Create them a situation where they need to communicate. They have to give them a space for them to actually they have to come and communicate. They have to give them a space and teach. This is the way they have to model. Or they can use a sibling with them. If the child has a sibling or another child, you can show, see, he asked me for a cookie, see, this is how he asked and I gave it to him, but this is not the way. So you can model when he's using speech and he's not using gestures, and I give him the cookie. Why don't you try? They take peers and sibling as a better model than the adults and mothers and all.
Right, of course. And also I have this question, sometimes parents have 2 kids and one child spoke at the right milestone and everything perfectly well, and the other child is not speaking, the second child mostly. So in that case, again, parents feel that there is a problem, or why is my second child not speaking, the first child is speaking. So again, the same.
Actually, this complaint is actually going on rounds for a while. Off late recently. Actually, if you look into it, there are studies who telling that the mother they don't have enough time for their second as they devoted for their first. So that could be one of the factor. And second is the sibling compensating for the child. For the brother or sister, they compensate for the child, brother or sister, understanding for them, speaking for them. So the they don't have the pressure to communicate. So my brother is doing it for me, my sister is doing it for me. So
Right.
they don't feel the need to communicate. That is there. And of course, even here, as I told you, 18 to 24 months and they still don't speak. It's definitely, it is a concern to be addressed.
Okay, so
Even if the onset is late, they will eventually compensate the second ones. Even if the onset is late and they have little vocabulary, they started speaking. They have intention to communicate, right? But they will start speaking. If they didn't have any intention to communicate and they just involve themselves in isolated play and they don't mingle with others and all this, those are signs something is wrong.
Right. And also there is this complaint about, children are speaking, but certain letters, they have a problem with. Like, they'll call sir something else, and fur they'll not be able to pronounce fur properly. So the words are not clear and it's not the delivery, the diction. So it's difficult for others to understand. The parent can understand the child because the parent lives with the child, but sometimes new people, strangers, they cannot understand what the child is saying. So what do you recommend in that case?
Again, we have to consider age here. So kids, gently, some kids, right from 1 year or 2 years, they have a very, very good clarity, very good intelligibility in their speech. But some kids, they don't find it easier to pronounce certain words. So it is perfectly, it's okay for the kids to substitute certain sounds and speak and all that. It's called baby talk. It is not a cause of concern. So if they persist, if they continue to use same type of speech errors after 6 or 7 years, it is a disorder. It is a speech a disorder there. So even speech sounds have milestones, just like we have first words and babbling and all that. Even certain sounds has to be acquired at certain age in the child. So frontal sounds, like sounds which we pronounce with the lips, and frontal sounds should be acquired early. So like that, the child will acquire sounds according to the age. If they don't acquire all these by 5 to 6 years and they still persist on the speech errors, then we have to address the issue.
Okay.
But normally having that clarity defect is okay, because why the reason is the physiological maturation of the child is not complete. For certain kids, they are naturally very clear in their speech, but certain kids with the physiological maturation, with whatever their articulators are your tongue, lip, teeth, and that only with those movements we produce speech sound, right? So those maturity, if it is not complete, they try to produce the words with whatever function they could. So that's where they have an unclear speech. So that is okay. But after a certain age, that is it. So when there is a defect, then we treat them, giving them all these feedbacks, and we have some techniques to address those issues.
Right. Also, there is this question, sometimes kids speak and the tongue comes in front, when they're using certain letters like sir, then the tongue, and this is a question from a parent, sir, the tongue comes in between the jaws and it sticks out instead of being inside when the word is being pronounced. So again, are there like particular exercises, or the tongue needs a surgery? What is it that
we have to actually look into the oromotor structures? We have to see if there's any defect in the tongue, why the child is having that type of behavior. So we have to look into the oromotor structures if everything is fine, and then we consider that it could be faulty learning. Okay. So it could be faulty learning, and we have to give them feedback. You have to place the articulator at this place, and using mirrors and giving them feedbacks, we teach them the proper articulation. Since they practice by telling those sounds in particular way, it might be a little difficult for them to adapt the original way. So, but it takes time. It is purely practice. So these two could be an issue. So it could be either the anatomical defect, or it could be faulty learning.
Okay. Also, Krishnapriya, if you could recommend a few things that parents with very young kids, they could do in order to encourage their kids to speak, and just a few simple practices that they could follow at home, which would encourage their kids to speak soon or when the milestone is supposed to be achieved, so that they don't have to actually really go through the delay or face an issue.
They just have to first understand that by 1 year, the child should utter at least one meaningful word by at least 1.5 years. So that checkpoint they should have. And before that, to stimulate, give them proper speech stimulation, they have to focus more on functional words, more than academic, more than 1, 2, 3 and orange, yellow and blue. They have to teach them functional words for the kids and speak a lot to the child. You have to keep repeating those words again and again. Talk about what the child is doing. Talk about what you're doing. Supposing the child is having a ball. Oh, baby, I'm having a ball. You're having a yellow ball. The ball is big. So you're telling ball in 3 statements. So what you insist is the ball. So even though the child does not respond immediately, the child input is gone. So when the child has to say ball, that would come, that would flash in his mind, and he would start using it. Just that we have to repeatedly, keep speaking, give them enough input language. Then they would use those, pick up words they want, and then use it at the right time. So when the child is very young, you can introduce, non-speech sounds like, the cow goes mom, the sheep goes ba, and all this excites the child. The way you interact with the child also matters, using the inflections. We call it madris. It's just like the ball. Oh, it's a ball. This is the inflection, which with facial, exaggeration and the tone and the gestures. This is basically a technique for your child to, listen to you, attend to you. Like that, we need not speak, the whole day. It's not like academics. You need not take a concept and teach the child. Just very natural. Teach the things around the child, like teach them table, teach them fan, teach them light. Those are the things, they see. Teach them tumbler, teach them spoon, fork, teach them sambar, teach them vada. All these they use, they see. So when they have enough vocabulary, they would develop that inquisitiveness to, learn the other words. They will ask, Mama, what? Mama, this. Mama, this. They will ask. So when they ask, they automatically they learn all those words. So basic thing you need is to increase the intention to communicate. So excite them with non-speech sounds. Then speak to them about what they're doing. Speak about what you're doing. See what is Mama doing. Mama's cooking. Mama's having having potatoes and cutting into small. It's a big potato now. It is small. It's brown in color. So it's very spicy. It's very sweet. So you keep speaking. Speaking, even though you don't respond immediately. They they put words inside. Daily they speak, and they look. They basically have to connect the sound and the image. There they get the connection and they acquire the language.
Right. So basically, I'll just summarize quickly what you've spoken about. So one is speak a lot, then emphasize on a few words and repeat it a multiple. More of functional and less of academic words, so that their interest and their curiosity to learn more is increases basically. So intention to know and learn increases. So that's really nice. So I think this is very important that we speak. And now that you've mentioned it now that I think about, when Veer was small, I think I used to do a lot of this, like I used to keep talking to him even when I was bathing, giving him a shower or giving him a massage. I used to tell him that I'm giving you a massage, this is your leg.
Take the time separately to teach language. It is just it's a very natural learning. It's a natural process. Just that nowadays kids are exposed to a lot of screen time, too much of visual stimulation. They find the screen more interesting than the normal surrounding. That's why they don't, only the colors they saw on the phone, the sounds they heard, keeps coming in their mind, and they don't attend to the environment. That's where they lack natural learning. That's why we have to, sit and teach them like academics. It's not like that. You have to make the natural environment very interesting for them. Allow them to, pretend play, role play, use things. You need not buy, toys for them to stimulate all this. Just ask them to sort the vegetables, pluck the curry leaves, fill the bottles, and so many activities are there.
Right.
We not invest in so many toys for them to get the attention and all that.
Right.
Even tearing and sticking is a very nice activity. Water play is an activity. Putting
Right.
toys and asking to pick up with some strainer. Even a strainer is enough to pick it up. We do
Right.
not buy advanced toys and invest on that. Just the
Right.
quality time the mother, just like an assistant, the mother should have the child along with her and involve them in all the activities she does. So,
Right. Okay, so we have now we'll take some questions from the audience. So we have this
sure, sure.
question: if my child is autistic, how do I
Mhm.
manage the speech issues?
Speech issue. Basically, they would have defect in attention. So first, the child should get the attention. They should have sitting tolerance. They would not be able to sit in a place. So we generally recommend occupational therapy, where they have a lot of activities for the child to make them sit. They have a lot of sensory activities. So they have sensory integration activities for the child to sit in a place. So from there, only if the child sits, they would be able to attend to speech and all the other activities. So then we start incorporating speech therapy and we try to incorporate other things to the child. We teach language to the child. Basically, the child has to sit and have some attention.
Okay, so first, for attention, we'll have to do some sensory activities with the child, and once that
Yeah,
is there,
we
then we can.
have occupational therapist. They are the
Okay.
main in autistic kids.
Okay. Okay. And
Mm.
the next question that we have is my baby is 20 months old and she still can't speak. She's only using hand gestures. What can I do?
Speak just like just as I told. Introduce her to lot of language. Give them thousands of words, but don't expect the child to respond immediately. Just I spoke to her for 2 days, but she hasn't responded. No, keep speaking. Keep speaking for at least one month. And if you don't see even 5 words, even if the child has not uttered 5 words or even showed understanding of five words or 10 words in that 1 month, then we should probe into the cause why the child.
Okay, and then
Basically, we
she.
have to evaluate ourselves that have we stimulated the child properly.
Right.
Then we should expect output from the child.
Right. Okay, and then we have a question. My baby is 3.5 years old and he couldn't speak properly so that everybody understands. Like, I think he's speaking but not very clearly, and people cannot understand what he's saying. So, what can
Okay.
be
I
done
think
in that
already I
case?
can say,
Yes.
if maybe talking. Still 5 to 6 years, they could. It is okay for the child to have some speech errors, but still they have certain sounds they have to attain at certain age. But after 6 years, if they persist on the same speech errors in their speech, we have to look into
Right.
it.
Right. And then I think Suchi is asking
Just
again
as
what.
that you have to give the child, proper feedback. They have to make the child look into the articulators when they speak, and don't. And I insist on the mom not giving too much of importance to clarity right now. Just the language would do.
Okay.
Just that they have to give them a proper, you should not keep correcting the speech right now, because they might lose interest to speak. They would say, "What
Right.
my mother's each and every word I speak, so better don't speak on." So this is not
Right.
the age to correct. So just that give them proper feedback, ask them to look into the articulators, show them how it is done. And don't, if it persists after 5 or 6 years or 7 years, then we would, I'm sure it would go away. But if it still persists, then we should look into it.
Right. Right. And then we have my daughter is 3 years old, but she's still not making sentences. I think because you spoke about a 3-year-old being able to speak in sentences. So, a question this is a question from Shalini. She's saying that she's 3, but she's not speaking in sentences, but she is speaking.
Okay. As far as the child has started to speak, it depends on when the child has started to speak. If he has started to speak, they have to, we have to extend the sentences for the child. If the child is telling red apple, it's a big red apple. I'm giving all the examples in English. That is a common language. So you have to say
Right.
it's a big red apple. It's a sweet red big apple. So you have to extend the sentence So the child, understands, attaches meaning to the sentence, and she'll also start,
Extending.
stringing the words. We have to introduce a lot of adjectives to the child so that they increase the length of the sentence. Adjectives like cold milk, hot water. All this are, additives to language. So it helps in, increasing the sentence.
Right.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Absolutely.
Okay.
And
So
then,
it's the they have to introduce adjectives and action words which actually help in increasing the sentence length.
right,
Adjectives is describing words, and verbs, action words.
right,
Stirring, cooking, jumping, standing, all this helps in stringing words together and make a big sentence.
right. And we have this question from Lalita. She's saying an autistic child, but she has good memory and also good attention span and has started babbling some sounds. What should be the next step for her?
What's the age of the child?
The age is not mentioned, but she's saying that good memory, good attention span, and is also babbling some sounds. So, Lalita, if you are still here, you can mention the age of the child. But I'm assuming should be in the age bracket 3 to 6, I think. And 3 to 6, I think. I'll just check.
3.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'm not sure. The age is not mentioned.
Okay.
So, what can be the next step?
As far as language is concerned, it's how you introduce language to any other child. We have basic steps in introducing language. Basically, the child has to recognize its own name. Then it has to follow instructions. Then they have to identify objects. Then they have to name the objects. Then they have to combine two words and form 2 words. This is the same protocol even if the child is autistic.
Okay.
What kind of approach we adapt for the child is different, because if it is a normal speech delayed child, it is very easy to get the attention. Just a normal play way would suit. But for autistics, it is a multisensory approach. It is purely therapeutic.
Right. So I really like the sequence that you mentioned. So first, the child should recognize his or her name, and then should identify objects. Right? That's the next.
Mm-hmm.
Identify objects. No, sorry. Follow instructions. Identify objects, and then try to name the objects, and then combine 2 words, and then more than 2 words.
Family members.
Right. So that's a nice sequence and a nice checklist actually. And let's see, we have and Suchi is also asking, like you mentioned, like for attention they need to do some sensory activities. So if you could recommend a few sensory activities that she could try with her kid, like autistic child, like you mentioned, that they'll have to do some sensory activities to first get their attention.
Yeah. Okay. They could fill up bottles. They could parents stick. They could stick bindis on a line to get the attention. They have to walk on a straight line. You have to draw line on the surface, and you have to ask the follow track. You can make different tracks. You can make a curvy track, or you can make a straight track, ask them to follow. There's so many other. It is mostly the job of the occupational therapist. They would have even better ideas. To have a.
Okay. And we have one question that from what month can we start speech therapy for our kids? Like if they feel that there is a delay or there is a need for speech therapy, what is a good age to start?
As early as possible. As early as possible. The child, I would say, if the child is not even babbling by 6 to 10 months, definitely you can come and get it evaluated from a speech therapist. It's not harmful to get an evaluation, right? It's not it's not an invasive technique. It's just a casual interview session and observation from the child we get. So if you find the child is is normal and doesn't show any signs or symptoms of any other associated disorders, we would just recommend some nice home training techniques for the mother, to follow at home for the child to pick up language easily. But if we find early intervention is the best, anything, because we the first 3 to 4 years, it's very critical for the child to learn anything. You leave those first 4 years and then come at 5 years and 6 years, it is, that speed is not there, and definitely there's a big lag for the child, right?
Right.
So we miss those years, and the child also misses everything. In today's situation, this is the major problem I faced. All these 13 years of the practice, they come very late. We noticed this when he was 1.5 years, but we waited. But why did we wait? Why did you wait? You shouldn't have waited. You should have got a properly evaluated and properly, if their child had got therapy very early, they would have been in school, and they would have been in par with their peers. They would not have a reading issue. They would not have any other issues. So
Right.
that's what I would say. Why? Because they don't find it an emergency problem for them to attend. They see,
And
let's
I
wait.
feel sometimes more than emergency, parents also feel scared, for an evaluation. They feel that, what if there is
What
a
did we say?
problem?
Something wrong?
What if,
Yeah, yeah.
I think more than the emergency, I think every parent really wants the child to speak. But if there is a
Nobody is going
need,
to. Here we have to understand, nobody is going to tell wantedly the child is having a problem. Only if we find something is wrong, we would definitely say it is wrong. And if the child is perfectly normal, we would advise them with a nice home training techniques, and allow the mother to interact with the child.
right,
Why they should get, if the child really has a problem, and why they sit quiet. If it is any other problem, any other deformity, we would attend, right? Speech
right,
is also like that. The child would struggle at school, because with present scenario and the syllabus, the children have to read by 3 years. I mean, LKG, they're reading 2 books. My child is reading 2 books. They have phonic reading for 3 years and 4 years. That pressure will fall on them if they're not intervened early, right? So
right,
why leave that and have that lag in the child?
right. So early intervention helps, and there is no harm in actually taking an
Early intervention
evaluation.
is a massive for anything, I would say. Any problem, not only speech, any medical issues. Mothers have the instinct, something is wrong, and they go, right? We have to trust on those instincts, and get them for an early intervention, evaluation.
Right,
It's our child. We have to, really attend. Being scared is not the problem, not the solution,
right.
So we have to attend to the problem and get it evaluated. That's what I would say. I strongly believe in early intervention.
Right. And then we have this question from Manisha. She's saying that my son is 8, but still some of his words are not clear. Will he need a speech therapy, or will it become clear as he grows? He is not able to say words like pakoda. Like, she's given an example of a word that he is not being able to pronounce. Like words like
So 8
pakoda.
years is really, I told you, after 7 years, the last sound is r. We give them some time, to get that sound r, 6 to 7 years. So after that, pakoda is not a very, very difficult sound to produce. So those type of sounds, if he's not able to produce, then definitely we have to see what kind of speech errors he's got and correct it as early as possible before it becomes a practice for the child. Because early, if it is treated, it won't be difficult for him to even correct himself.
Right. Yeah, because otherwise they keep practicing the wrong style and it becomes difficult.
It will be the nature of speech. So they, naturally, they won't be able to correct. It will become the way of speech.
Right, that's true. And then we have a question, and her question is, if a child is premature, do the parameters change? Do they still remain the same, like the speech parameters, like the age appropriate milestones that you mentioned? That, one word when they are 1, and 2 words when they, like, combining 2 words when they are 2.
If the child is premature, I told 18 to 24 months. I've given that 6 months gap. So 18 is the starting point, and even by 24 months, even if the child is premature and doesn't utter a word, it is definitely something we have to attend
Right. And
to.
I think this is similar to what you've answered, but I'm just reading the question. So she's saying that my son is 2 years, 3 months old, and
Okay.
does not speak at all. And the only thing that he wants to say sometimes is mama and papa. So yeah, I think he's crossed the mind.
Yeah.
Right.
And Papa, meaningfully, we have to look into it. Is it meaningful or non-meaningful? Some kids use one word for all the objects and all the things. They
Okay.
say mama for everything. Is it like that, or is the child addressing mama and papa meaningfully? We
Okay.
have to look into it. And we have to see his understanding level also. Apart from his expression, how well he understands. Is it only the expression part which is disturbed, or is it even the understanding part of comprehension?
Right. Right.
Mm.
And then we have this question, and she's saying that my daughter is 5 years old. She pronounces the letters C and K as T. T. You know? So
Okay.
instead of K,
Okay.
she's saying T. And she's 5.
Okay. Okay. So she's 5 years. Okay. We can. She can take words. No. She can take k sounds in isolation. Isolation means only k, not with the sounds, not with the as words. See in isolation k. She has to teach. Have draw and teach the child where exactly her articulators should touch the palate.
Right.
So and give them a feedback and tell them this is how it's pronounced.
Okay.
And ask the child, give them a record her way of pronouncing. She has to say ka and ask the child to say ka and say, see, this is ka, this is not. So the child should be able to find the difference between the how it's wrongly produced. So she has to know that what she's doing is wrong. How she's
Right.
produced is what she's using is wrong. That's not right. So
Right.
she basically has to understand that is wrong.
Right.
She has to identify how it has to be produced. Then she has to know that it is wrong. Only if it is wrong, she'll make an attempt to correct it. Right? So I would say don't insist too much right now. Still she's 5 years, right? Eventually, very gradually and very slowly let the child teach. Let the mother teach the child.
Okay. And
Give
then we have
feedback.
this question. Can you suggest and recommend a few ways to teach letters R, F, and S? Like, I think the child is having problem with pronunciation.
It goes deep into speech therapy. Yeah,
Right.
basically you have to teach them the placement of the articulators. So that is a basic thing you have to do. Give them feedback. Give them visual feedback. Ask them to stand in front of the mirror. How you place your tongue. How the child is placing the tongue. So that's a difference. Then second is give them auditory feedback. Record and play it back to the child. So they basically have to discriminate between the wrongly produced sound and the correctly produced sound. So that the basic step they have to do.
Okay. Got it. And I think this is not related to speech, but it's more like a
Okay.
behavior. And her question is that, my daughters are of age, like she has twin daughters, they're 6. They feel very shy to interact with others. And
Okay.
it becomes difficult for, I think this is more about them being shy, because at home she says they're perfect when it comes to talking. So I think
It's
it's
about
more like a behavior than a speech. So I'll skip this. And then we have my son is 15 months old. He still says only 2 to 3 words. Is that okay? Also, people around me are suggesting to give him screen time, as he'll pick up language from cartoons if it's necessary. And I'm not sure if this is right.
no, we can use screen time for action songs, something interactive where you don't play the mobile and go away. But till 2 years, I would not recommend screen time. After
Okay.
2 years, if you're sitting and using the modality to teach certain things along with the mother, not just playing and going off. The mother should do the actions, clap your hands, lift your hands, doing along with the rhymes and asking your child to do is, it's productive. But, just playing and going off is not something which benefits the child. And it's not advisable this early to introduce screen also.
Right, right. So after two, and to use screen for mostly action songs and interactive.
Interactive, something interactive,
Right,
along with the parent.
right. I think we've taken some questions which are not related to speech. I'm skipping. Uh, yes. So I think I've done mostly all the questions that were relevant for speech delay. And thank you so much for your time. This was wonderful. You answered everything so patiently. And I love your smile. You've been smiling throughout. And it's really nice to see somebody smiling. And there's one last question that I have for you. And this is something that I always have for everybody that I go live with. One tip for all the viewers who will be watching this live after I save it and who are watching this live right now with us. Just one tip.
One tip is, I strongly believe in early intervention. If you think your child is not in the right track, please go for an evaluation, be it speech or any other issues. Please attend to your child and don't be scared. Whatever it is, you have to know what your child is undergoing, right? So don't hesitate to take your child and get evaluated. It's very, having that in your, behind your thoughts and not being and feeling guilty about not attending to the child. Just go and get evaluated. Don't get scared to get evaluated. Just know what's happening with your child.
Right.
And early intervention is the key for anything, for any progress.
Right. Thank you so much, Krishnapriya. It was wonderful having you here.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, I always love people who are doing anything special for kids, and you've been doing it for so long. I learned so much from you.
I'm very new to social medias. I've been trying to post whatever content I could. So I'll be regularly posting my content also on my page. So I have posted a lot of information on speech development and all the all the important things on speech. To visit my page also and get to know about it.
That's exactly what I was just coming to right now. I'm going to save this live. And I'm going to also tag Krishnapriya. Please follow her page. If you have issues, please go for an evaluation. And like she recommended, early intervention really helps. And there is no harm in getting a feedback or an opinion just for your clarity and peace of mind. And I feel that will always be really good for you and the child both. So thank you so much, Krishnapriya, for your time. It was wonderful having you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.